What's going on, you loyal listeners? Thank you for tuning in to the L Squared podcast. I'm your host here, Luke Larson, and joining me today, as per the usual, my lovely and loquacious special guest will be assisting me in leisurely launching you into levity, Old Legs.
We did it, buddy. Another year in the books. We are still largely funding this operation via our own wallets. But I tell you what, we did it. We made it through 2020. We survived the pandemic. We told you, loyal listeners, that we would be fine. Of all the professions in the world, podcasting, it is here to stay, and it is very doable in quarantine. The only thing that was largely missing was films, but you knew that we weren't gonna let you down.
No. We were gonna scrape the bottom of the barrel to find 10 movies that we could put together for this list.
We did some scraping. One might even argue, is it a film? So.
Oh, good.
But yeah, dude, we made it. It's another exciting year, and this is always one of my favorite episodes. Not only doing the episode, but going back and listening to what we had to say last year. So I guess, do we want to start there as far as before we get into kind of the new stuff, what we saw this year, what we liked, what we didn't like, maybe going back, if you may, to 2019 and just sort of revisiting those lists quickly and just going through what we thought. Would we make changes? Is there anything that jumped out? Anything that we saw after the fact? Because that is obviously a sort of caveat that we have to deal with on a yearly basis, is that we don't necessarily see everything. But if we were paid to do this, I bet we would see more films.
I was gonna say we'd probably see 13% more. I would say.
I wasn't gonna say all. I'm not in the business of making promises that I can't keep, but I would argue that we'd see more.
I'm sticking with my 13%. I think we would see 13% more movies. Yep, if we were getting paid for it.
Wow.
Yeah, one of the caveats too, other than what we saw after the fact, is that we live in a place that doesn't always get movies right away. So we usually wait for our list until January or February to allow ourselves time to get these Oscar movies to come to theaters. But when you're stuck at home and movies aren't really coming to the theater as often as they do before, then there's no real waiting around. So we're like, let's do something crazy. Let's get it in the same year. Let's get it.
Just do it.
Let's just leave 2020 in the past.
So I'm not even sure if there's going to be much of like an Oscar bump this year. The Oscars totally. Like March, right?
Yeah, or April, I think.
It's way late. So the idea of doing a 2020 list 3-4 months into the year, I'm not really a huge fan. I'm happy with what we have here. I saw a lot of stuff this year. I was going through. This is my first full year of Letterboxd, and I tell you what, I was texting you earlier. It's like me looking back at everything, all the bullshit that I watched throughout the year is like, it's like the plot of Tenet. Like I'm working for myself. Like I'm remembering all these shitty films that I put myself through. So it's really exciting. It actually made the list making very, very streamlined and simple. So shout out to Letterboxd. But over 110 films I saw this year were my stats. Only about 30 from 2020, but again, big asterisk there. Just not a whole lot hitting theaters or VOD. So that's sort of where we're at. So
okay, so what did your 2019 top 10 films look like?
2019. So my 2019, and this is kind of interesting because we talked a lot last year about how, or at least I was a bit disappointed, maybe right up until the end again when we kind of hit that Oscar surge. But I had at 10, I had Peanut Butter Falcon. Number 9, Little Women. Number 8, The Farewell. Number 7, Booksmart. Number 6, an old legs classic, Crawl. Just a great film. Great film. 5, Once Upon a Time, Quentin Tarantino. 4, Ed Parasite. Number 3, Marriage Story. 2, Midsommar, and 1, The Uncut Gems. That was my list. How about you?
Yeah, little different. I had at number 10, I had Motherless Brooklyn. Great pick.
Still have not.
Still good. That still has one of my favorite scenes in the last couple of years. The Jazz Tourette's scat scene is so good, and it sounds made up, but it's fantastic. And then I had Midsommar at 9, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at 8. Then I had The Lighthouse at 7. Then Honey Boy at 6. Us at 5. Knives Out at 4. Parasite at 3. Booksmart at 2. And number 1, unanimous, Uncut Gems.
Yep. How do you feel about that list?
I don't know. I mean, it's fine. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else I would put on there. I mean, I'm glad that I had The Lighthouse on there. I know that after I watched it the first time, I was like, I don't know if it's going to make my list. And then I watched it a second time and really enjoyed it so much more and was able to put it on. But I thought The Lighthouse was going to be maybe my number 1. You know, that was like a huge anticipated film for both of us. Yep. And it, I'm glad that was on there. Honey Boy, I love that's on there. Knives Out is great. So I'm glad I put that on there. Sometimes it's hard to you kind of get bogged down in like the time of the year, the Oscar time, where you're seeing all these movies that are marketed that they're great, and they are usually extremely well done and great productions and great acting and directing, but just because they're made by people who are good at making movies doesn't mean it's going to resonate with you all the time. So there's kind of, it's harder. I always try and stay true to myself as far as what rang true or what I personally liked, as opposed to like what was maybe a better made film, or, you know, better talent was working on it, but something that so looking at my list, I can see that there were some movies that I could have put higher, but I'm glad that I didn't. And maybe there were some that were higher that maybe could have been lower for that same reason.
I like it, man. I'm pretty solid with my list. I really, over time, I've grown more and more to like a film like The Farewell. I just really love that film. That was one I ended up watching again. Booksmart is another one that was high on your list, and it's just really rewatchable. But I'm pretty strong here. Was Marriage Story in your top 10?
No, it wasn't, and you couldn't
Not
believe
a Marriage Story
guy? I think I put, it was kind of like between Honey Boy and A Marriage Story for me.
Wow.
Because they were just both like,
okay,
hit home
for me. Not a big Sondheim guy? You're not saying Sondheim?
I hate him. Yeah. I mean, it has all the ingredients, right? And I liked it. But I think maybe I wish I would have seen it before it was a meme. You know, we kind of live in that age now where the memes were everywhere, and
I think I like it even better as a meme.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if I could have experienced the film and then seen the memes, I probably would have not, I don't know if that had an adverse effect on it, but it's just kind of, I don't really like watching a movie when you're just checking off a
Mm,
box, where
Well,
you're like, oh, well, oh, this is going to be great and I'm going to like it. And then you're like, yep, it was great. And I did like it, and it hit home and it did resonate and it is great, but
I
it
will
wasn't,
say
go ahead.
it is sort of your fault. That movie came straight to streaming on Netflix. So
I'm
if you
not,
were
yeah,
overwhelmed by the memes, you could have watched that the second that it hit streaming. So
I'm not blaming anybody
shame on
else.
you. Uh, that 2019. I think it was a solid year. I'd give it like a B plus. Uh, I think it was really saved by some of the kind of heavy hitters
Hmm.
near the end of the year. The Parasites, the Uncut Gems, obviously Marriage Story, which made a big push. Uh, but but yeah, this is that was that was that, and now 2020. We who who could have
Yeah.
who could have guessed? Who could have guessed
Hmm.
that we would, sort almost be watching the collapse of the film industry in slow motion
Hmm. Yeah.
just throughout the year. I don't know. I hope it comes back strong. I predicted that Dune would be my number one film of 2020, and who's to say it's not, right?
Yeah. That's
Trailer
true.
alone,
Yeah.
I gave it consideration. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that got pushed that uh, who knows if we see it. Will we see it in theaters? Will we see it straight, pipe it into our veins sitting on the couch?
Hmm.
All interesting questions, but I think, and I am confident with you as well, that we came up with some interesting things to talk about here because
Yeah.
again, I was available and I did watch a lot of shit.
Hmm.
So I was not bored of content necessarily. There were some dry spells where we couldn't see new stuff particularly, but
Yeah.
uh,
I'm excited to do the list because I feel like there's always like usually toward the end of the year, but there's probably like 4 or 5 films that come out that we know like you'll probably have them on your list and I'll probably have them on my list, and somewhere. And this year is like we were talking about it before a little bit, but I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna even have one in common, which is interesting. It's a little bit more of a time capsule, instead of
right.
so
And
it'll be interesting.
yeah, this could be fascinating too. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's 5 or 6 films that are really good that we end up really liking that
Hmm.
are funded by some sort of virtual Oscar push. Again, I can't really see. I don't know what a smarter person than me, a more industry person, would have an idea like how much would you fund a film to make like any sort of Oscar push if there's maybe not even a theatrical release. But hey, I mean, we've seen it. Netflix has pushed stuff, Amazon has pushed stuff. They want to win awards, so
Yeah.
uh, I do think we will see in the next couple months a really, a handful of good films. Will they make our list? I don't know, but I'm just happy with where we are right now, and I'm excited to get into it. So,
Yeah.
do we want to do we want to start it off here? I have I am ready to go. As per our previous years, we will cycle back and forth. And if we do have any duplicates or replicates uh, on our list, we will save those to till they are properly rated to the highest number. So that's sort of how we've done it in the past. And since we are averse to change, that's how we will continue to do it. And again, until we have sponsored segments
Yep.
or Subway tells us to do it some other way. So there you
Great.
go.
So we'll start with My number 10.
Number 10.
Adrian is sitting in that chair.
He's watched your every move. He's followed your every step.
Hello?
He's closer than you think. What you can't see
Where are you?
can hurt you.
Show yourself! There you are.
The Invisible Man.
The Invisible Man, my number 10 favorite film of 2020.
The Invisible Man, take it away. It did not make my list this year. It was very close. Boy, it feels. Does it not feel like?
So long ago.
This
Ages.
was just at the very end of
the movie industry as we knew it.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah. Did we see this film together? I don't think we did.
No, I think we saw it the same weekend, but it was definitely the last movie I saw in theaters for a long time.
God, remember when we used to do that?
I know. And it was a great one to see in theaters. And, you know, it's Blumhouse. This was kind of their foray into, I think we did an episode on it after it had come out. You guys can go dig that up. Right. But Blumhouse kind of reinvented the concept of the Invisible Man and repackaged it into a new age thing, which is kind of what everybody wants to do. But they did this in a super effective way, and it's a really good horror film. I mean, it's fun, it's super scary, and the fact that they use this Invisible Man and then put it in a context of overcoming an abusive relationship where you feel like you can't get rid of them and they're always around. It's just genius. And it's not an allegory, you know, it's a straightforward horror movie.
And I think we talked a bit about this on a singular episode, but Elizabeth Moss she doesn't stop doing difficult material. If there is a high wire available for her to climb and to traverse, she will do it. And I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for her to do the Four Weddings and a Funeral remake, because by God, she deserves a rom-com. The Invisible Man. I love this film. It's a great film.
Yeah, go check it out. It was good. All right, so then we'll do my number 9.
Coming from the wind-up, and guess what, Paul?
Stobierski. Sorry, I got a long one. Name?
Chuck! What the hell are you doing home?
Got kicked out of the bar. Hey, Jeff.
Now stick your tongue out and roll your eyes in the back of your head. Now you look as dumb as you are.
That was from the South Dakota Film Festival, one of the feature debuts there, Small Town, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah.
You stick into your South Dakota roots here. This is
always
one of your moves. This is one of your moves. You've done this in the past,
mm-hmm.
and I respect it. I did not get a chance to see this, but I think we maybe talk about this a little bit, or
I interviewed the director on the show, Niels Mueller, so he and I had a good conversation about it, so you guys can go find that. But yeah, I think we talked about our anticipation for it. It's a really good film. I don't even think it's gotten a wide release as of yet, but it's a really good indie film, and I think that if we could have had theaters and could have had an indie push, it could have been this year's like small indie darling. It's really, really good. And it hit home for me because it's about it takes place at a small town in the Midwest, and Niels was able to capture that so well. And it's a really great movie, man. And I really hope that people finds an audience. So it's really good, and it made it to my number 9.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible not to talk about just the effects of, the pandemic in 2020 are going through this list, but I just, it makes me wonder how many of those borderline, films that are close to getting released, that are maybe just looking for that just a bit of festival push to kind of put it over the top and get a lot of eyeballs onto it. So I'm sure it's not the only film that is maybe in limbo right now. And I'd really love to see it in 2021. So I agree. Let's hope that that we do sort of get things back online, and that we're able to kind of see some of these smaller projects that can really take off. So yeah,
absolutely.
Great stuff.
So what's your number 10?
Number 10, here we go. I had to keep it I had to keep in character and just years long bits going
Of course.
for the podcast. So I am, this is not your name, although I did see Weathering with You this year, and it is pretty good. Although not top 10 good, but it is good. Same director as Your Name, but I had to keep within the confines of picking questionably. Was it a 2020 film? Is it a 2019 film? The trailer that I'm looking at right now is from 2020. IMDb says 2019, but it was released in 2020 in the Americas. So fuck it, I'm counting it.
You're the scientist, I hear.
I am Jared, the skipper. This is Freya, the real boss.
What is your work while you're on board?
I identify and extrapolate patterns from variations in deep sea behavior. I need to photograph it, huh?
We're on a roll.
Something's wrong.
At number 10 on my list, I have a film called Sea Fever.
Wow, I've never heard of it. I've never heard you talk about it.
All of these films, loyal listeners, I have told Luke to watch multiple times. Multiple times. I told him, this film in particular, I was like, watch Sea Fever. Sea Fever slaps. And does he do it? No.
No, absolutely not. No.
Let me tell you about the film Sea Fever. It is a film by Neasa Hardman, directed by, written. It is about a crew that goes out to sea, and they come down with, no, I'm just kidding. They do get sick.
The bends.
Not the bad kind of sick. Well, a bad kind of sick, but not our sick. I'm off to a great start here. It's sort of a mix of cabin fever, isolation, a la The Thing. I would just say probably the easiest way to describe it is it's The Thing on a boat. And it has got some 2020 overtones. The main character, played by Hermione Corfield, is incredible. She's a scientist who essentially, once they're compromised and they get sick, she decides, we're not going back to land to spread this to the masses, which,
Wow, what a decision.
I wish we had more people like Hermione Cornfield. So watch Sea Fever. It is a great film, and it's scary, it's fun, it's well made, and very, very well acted. If you wanted to dive into the colored version, the color verse of the Lighthouse, a bunch of Lighthouse-esque characters, and just ship people, boat people, pirate people, like it's just a bunch of those people, and it's awesome. So
they're all fond of your lobster.
They are absolutely fond, and superstitious too, which I love. I love superstitious people. They are great. So Sea Fever, that was my number 10. My number 9 is coming up right here.
Last time it was no tennis.
You know it. You know that bass drop. You hear the Travis Scott come in. Oh, we did it. We did it. Number 9, baby. Chris Nolan, Tenet.
What?
It's on the list.
Wow. I am shocked that this made your list. It didn't make mine.
You want me to tell you why it is?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Tenet. This was, I guess, the only sort of post-pandemic film, big box office thing that we saw. This was sort of an experiment to see what would happen, to see if people were ready to see it in theaters. And spoiler alert, they were not. The film bombed. It flopped. We talked about it on a pod. We were very excited for it. And it is by no means a perfect film, but the criteria, loyal listeners, if you recall, for my list is, will I remember it? Did it have any sort of effect on me? And just for the soundtrack alone, that was good enough for 10 on my list. I put it 9 just because I wanted to be funny and put something on there that maybe didn't even fucking come out in 2020. But we'll let the we're gonna stop counting the votes on Sea Fever. But Tenet it's there. It makes no sense. This is again, like we just talked about Marriage Story and how like the memes, maybe kind of took away from your experience. The memes once again enhanced the film for me. I got so much mileage out of the Nathan Fielder, The Plan. It's just incredible. It truly does. The plot of this movie does sound like a Nathan For You sketch, and I love that. I don't know. I have not seen this film again. I don't necessarily know that I want to revisit it yet, but I do think I will see it in the future. The performances in this are great. I absolutely love John David Washington. He's sort of on his way. Him and Rob Pat they're pretty much like neck and neck for who's going to be the biggest fucking star in the world within the next, I don't know, like 12 to 16 months. So just that alone, I think at least worth it mention. I'll let you go here. Why didn't it make your list? I know we already talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, I think I like a lot of things you said. I think John David Washington's performance is great, and it's such a physically demanding performance, and he does a phenomenal job at it. Rob Pat is great. Kenneth Branagh also does a great job. You can tell that Kenneth Branagh is just like hamming it up and having a great time, and it's fun.
Yeah, from the stage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's playing to the back row for sure.
Yeah.
And like their female character is not well written, which Chris Nolan is, really known for, but it's confusing in a way that they're like Robert Pattinson has said like he went for months filming that, not having any idea what was going on. And that's kind of become a joke, but in a way it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Like clearly the editor didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. I don't even think Christopher Nolan knew exactly what was going on. I mean, I like that it gets paradoxical and Chris Nolan likes to play with alternate timelines, but the problem is it just gets too convoluted for its own good. And you start to ask simple questions that don't have answers, and there's not really a way to answer it unless you go through a 20-page manuscript that still contradicts itself, So at that point, it's like, that's just too much, but as far as like, if this was just on, like if it comes to HBO or something, I would probably throw it on in the background. I mean, the set pieces are great. The action is great. The soundtrack is great. The performances are great. It's just not really well paced. The first act is slow. The second act, I think, is really good. And the third act is muddled. So it's kind of like you can have it on the background is maybe when I'll see it again. But otherwise, I don't think I'm going to go out of my way to see this.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of bits that are just keep going and going, Robert Pattinson saying either A, he didn't read the book, or B, he doesn't know what the movie is about. That is probably, yeah, it is sort of warranted maybe for the first time, but I don't think he's ever read anything, and I love him, I really do.
Yeah.
I can't wait for him to be like, yeah, I don't even wait, what, Bruce Wayne's parents died, what, like,
yeah, exactly.
You know that? Like, yeah. It's going to be great. He is just a national treasure. So very excited for both of those people. And yeah, it was a fun film.
Yep.
And I'm certainly not going to forget it.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't really think in the plethora of puzzle films out there that it's necessarily worth trying to figure out. So
true.
Number 9 for me.
If you want a puzzle film, watch Eyes Wide Shut. We've been over that.
Puzzle or Christmas.
Or Christmas. Fits both. Maybe. Okay. So then we're back to my number 8.
What's going on with you? What's new?
Not much.
Hate the idea of you down there by yourself all the time. Just drinking.
I'm fine. I appreciate it. But I'm fine.
Ever since I heard the howling wind.
And I suppose you're wondering why I called you over here.
I didn't need to go where a Bible went.
Our basketball coach had a heart attack the other night.
Our boy, Ben Affleck, basketball coach.
If you were, yep.
The way back.
This is the way back. Good stuff here. This is not on my list. Take it away.
Dang, I thought you might have snuck this one on. This was also an early 2020 movie. I think it came out in like March or February. I think it was pre-pandemic. I went and saw it in the theater, and I really liked it. I don't know if we talked about it on a previous episode. I don't think we did a whole episode on it, but either way, I really liked it. I mean, Ben Affleck. We have been fans of Ben Affleck on this show. We've been a pro Affleck show for a long time.
Ones.
Yeah, the only ones.
Other than us.
Other than us, nobody. Yeah, both of them, both Afflecks. They may be problematic in their personal lives, but whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But just this film kind of served as Ben Affleck was dealing with his own alcoholism, and
that's something you'd really relate to, right?
Oh yeah.
Make it personal.
Yeah. And I'm also a big basketball coach, as you know. So the two check marks off my list.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he just this film is about a guy who was a great basketball player and went through some hard times, is an alcoholic, kind of lost his way. He kind of gets roped into taking a basketball coaching job at his old school and tries to clean up his act. And Al Madrigal plays a supporting role in it, and I've loved that guy. I love his stand-up. So him getting a nice meaty role was just cool for me to see. But it's a really good movie. I think at the time I said I would have liked if they had a little bit more basketball in it. Like they definitely cut some game footage short where it was like, here's the game, and then here's the final. Where I would have preferred a little bit more basketball in it. But I think it's really good, and I think it's pretty rewatchable. And I know that there were definitely some parts of it that you related to. Old Legs.
You were hoping, you're like, wow, it's, the basketball's good, but it's no American History X.
Right. That's the peak.
That is the pinnacle. Edward Norton, who I guarantee he insisted. He's like, I will walk off this fucking set if you do not let me 360 dunk here.
And you're like, I'm like, have you ever touched a basketball before, Ed? Because you really can't pretend like you have, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
I like this film. I thought that the alcoholism was really good. You said there was like you prefaced me watching it with there's just a really good move in here, and it's the beer from the fridge to the freezer, back to the that's good stuff.
Yeah. I was like, that's an Old Legs move I've ever seen.
I like a beefier Affleck. I'm not, I don't want to get Batman Affleck is not. Batfleck is maybe a little over the top, but just
the town Affleck's a little bit scrawny.
Unkept Affleck is kind of my wheelhouse.
Gone Girl.
Yeah. I mean, he'll never surpass Nick Dunn.
He'll never will.
Nick and Amy are my favorite movie couple of all time, and I'm still chasing Amy. So look at me with references.
Nice.
So yeah, I really like this film. And yeah, again, it does feel like it came out like a million years ago. So
yeah,
I actually this was one that I ordered. I paid like $20. I was ahead of my time before we did that. I was fuck it, Saturday night, let's put it on. So
sweet.
Yep.
Okay, well then that brings us to my number 7.
In welcoming to the stage our district superintendent and my friend, Frank Tassell. In Long Island, the town is only as good as its
public schools. The better the school system, the higher the price tag on the homes.
These are the best early decision numbers that we've ever seen.
I'm planning to make a difference. I got us all the way to number 4, and I will get us to number 1. Get us to first. That's all that matters. Hey, Frank.
I saw your face. You didn't know what was coming. This was Bad Education, starring Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
Ray Romano.
I did not see this film.
So this one came out in March, only to HBO. The big story on this before it came out was that there was a big bidding war for distribution on it, because they thought this might be like an Oscar push. And HBO actually won the bidding war. So this was between like Warner Brothers and Universal and
Elsewhere.
We tried. We
had a
were
hell
in
of a
there.
bid, but
we did.
We had a number and we didn't want to go past it.
Yep, exactly. So HBO won the bidding war, and this was a big deal because they were like, we're going to have it come only to streaming, and some people were upset because they're like, oh, this should come to theaters too. So it's kind of a precursor to what was going to come, but this was ahead of the ball. So I think they dropped it in March, I think, or April, but I saw it when it came out, and it's great. And I think it was super flew under the radar, especially with everything that's happened. But Hugh Jackman plays this great. He's the superintendent of the school. It's based on a true story where he was involved in this huge embezzlement from the school, him and some other school officials. And so he plays just this great, it's Hugh Jackman being a great actor, but he plays this guy that is like so charming and so good at his job and everybody loves him, but he's doing this thing, he's embezzling money, underneath them. And it's just this great conflicted character, and he puts in, I think he should be nominated for an Oscar for his performance. I think it's just phenomenal, and it's a great film, and I resonate with it because when I was in high school, my principal was caught changing kids' grades and was kicked out.
I thought you were going switching principles on me there.
That would have been so much better.
You saw us shades of young old legs in Jackman's performance. He's like,
that's right.
He did his homework.
He definitely saw it. I mean, he was definitely, you could tell that he was borrowing a little bit.
No, sure. We've had talks, and I gave him my blessing. So, it's fine.
Everybody knows there's like, Richard the Third, and then there's old legs in Switching Principals. Like those are like the big roles that you always go back to. So.
Whatever happened to him?
Yeah. Really. Where's that guy now?
30 for 30. Yeah. What if
I love that no one has any idea what we're talking about.
Just completely off the rails.
Just you and I.
Switching Principal also flew under the radar.
Yeah. Also. Yep.
Thematically, it fits.
Loyal listeners, Old Legs was the star of a play in high school called Switching Principals, in which he was a guy who pretended to be a principal because he broke into a school, and it was great. That was when I was like, this Old Legs guy is pretty cool. That started it all. But
no comment. I'm like Denzel. I only look forward. I don't like talking about the past.
Yeah. So anyway, Bad Education is a really, really, really great film. Solid, back to front, and does not get talked about. So people should see it.
Good stuff. Me? I'm up?
You're up.
I am up.
You're number 8.
Perfect. Okay. Here we go. Number 8.
Hey. Hi, guys. Hey, Trina. Caroline. Hi, Teddy.
Let's do a shot, guys. Some hearts.
Everyone get in. 3, 2, 1. Have you ever done anything like this before?
I've never done this over Zoom. Obviously, we're not physically together, but there's no reason why Spirit can't communicate over the internet.
Nothing's going to happen.
Nothing's going to happen? I don't know about that.
Famous last words.
8. I have the most 2020 film released in 2020. I have a film called Host.
Great call. Did not quite make my list.
Okay.
So we saw this together.
Host. We did. This was one of our singular movie experiences together this year. So, but yeah, this was a film that was released to Shudder. I fully expected. I think we called it on the podcast that somebody was going to make this film.
Yep.
And we should do more. Maybe we should start playing the stock market if we're shit, but things that will make us money. But no, this is a film that was made during quarantine on Zoom. It is essentially 5 friends doing a seance over the internet, and it is absolutely lovely. I love this film. It comes in at a brisk 56 minutes. It's tight. It's basically from jump to when things start to go creak behind the characters, it's on, and I loved it. I think that surprisingly, this is maybe the best version of this film. They've tried things like this, like Unfriended is okay. Some other sort of internet films. I think where those films sort of fall flat is the fact that they're usually like they have like TikTok kids as like the main characters, and this felt good, having some very late 20s to early 30s people just kicking back on a Saturday night, doing a little seance, which we may or may not have tried ourselves.
Yeah, who's to say?
So
who's to say?
I
love that. Yeah, I mean, I think that where those other films maybe fell short was partially in the runtime, like you said. Is I feel like a lot of those added a lot of fluff, and there was a lot of waste to kind of pad the runtime of setup and boring. Like, I don't give a shit about what this character is doing. It's trying to be funny, where host just gives it to you. It's just boom, boom, boom. We're in it. There are comedic effects. There are this and that, but there's not a lot of meat left on the bone. It's pretty cut to the chase, which I appreciated.
Yeah, there's always that film always has the let's take this box of valuables and go to the local shaman and hear the story about the girl that fell in the well and is still there, some bullshit like that. It's like things we don't really need. It's neither the backstory of the demon in most cases is neither helping nor hurting the fear in the film. It's just like you said, it's just sort of padding the stats, eating innings. So this was great. I loved it. 56 minutes. I was completely uncomfortable. It is such a great trope. It's up there with the Paranormal Activity of just that idea of you don't know what's behind you on your Zoom camera, and it's great. So again, I had every reason to hate this. Here we are on Zoom. I've probably spent more time than I hopefully ever will in my life on Zoom this year, but it is absolutely of our time, and I think it is so much better than it deserves to be. So host. That
good pick
was number 8. And number 7, I'm starting to build in some themes here. So this is also a film that is very of our time, and I will get you the trailer right here.
Let me show you out back, and then I'll get out of your hair. The stars are insane.
I should have brought the telescope.
What do you need a telescope in the city for? Unless you're like a peeping Tom or something.
For my number 7, I have the directorial debut by none other than Dave Franco. I have The Rental as my number 7. Did you see this film? Is this film on your list?
I have not seen it, but you did tell me to watch it.
Interesting. I'm sensing a theme here. It's weird. I don't really what's going on here, but so this is a film. This was again pretty much just mid-pandemic released to VOD, and this is about a group of, again, old millennials who are taking a weekend off and just gonna spend it in an Airbnb, right? Who hasn't done that? We're young, we're hip. Airbnb, it's totally cool, right? But have you ever paused to consider that we don't know a whole lot about the Airbnb, do we? Like, what's going on? who's been there, who owns it, and yeah. So this film asks basically like all of those questions and gives us the Airbnb from hell scenario, which I love, and I love basically any from hell movie. This film stars some really good people too. Ya boy Dan Stevens, who just he doesn't miss. He's incredible in this. Dan Stevens, Allison Brie, who was also in another one of my favorite films this year, Happiest Season, plays just the most unfun sister you could ever imagine, but she is great. And yeah, it's just basically here's 4 youngish, kind of hateable Silicon Valley millennials being hunted by a maybe killer, maybe we don't even really know. So it's great. And it's a pretty solid debut from Franco. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he does. So yeah, that was my number 8 and number 7. Those are my 2020 picks as they sort of fit into that very unique time frame that we're in right now. So,
very good.
It is all you.
All right, so then we'll get to my number 6.
Fred. You scared?
I don't love thunder. Nothing scares you.
Oh no, I love being scared. I have an idea.
Okay. What's your idea?
Scare me.
What?
You scare me, I'll scare you.
This was another Shudder original from this year, Scare Me, starring Josh Rubin, directed and written by Josh Rubin, his directorial debut. This was one that I absolutely loved. It's a horror comedy, and Josh Rubin is a great improviser. He was maybe best known for his work on College Humor when that was a thing. Just extremely funny guy, and I've always loved him and followed his work, and I know that he's been trying to write a film for a long time. So when I saw that he finally was writing and directing one, I was just like, I just want to see it just because I like him. And I was blown away with how much I love this film. It's so much fun. It's basically, the plot of it is this guy rents a cabin because he wants to write a screenplay or a book or whatever, and he wants it to be like a horror book. So he rents this cabin, and he kind of has he has writer's block, even scary.
Like Johnny Depp.
Right. It's basically, it's Secret Window. It's a remake of Secret Window.
Yeah.
So anyway, then whatever, this girl who's an accomplished novelist, she's also staying in this whatever, and her power goes out, so she comes over to his cabin, and they start hanging out together. Their electricity is out, and she says, let's scare each other. Let's tell each other scary stories. And so they take turns. It's almost like a horror anthology film, which I love, because they go back and forth telling these scary stories, and they don't recreate the stories. It is just them telling it. And it's surprisingly effective. There's some stories that are actually scary. There's some that are kind of weird. And there's, little comedy that's sprinkled throughout. And Josh Rubin's character initially isn't very good at it. But it's fun. It's just like, it feels like you're in a cabin with the fire, and you're just hanging out, and you're just telling these scary stories. It's got that great vibe to it. And it also has a great ending. So for this movie to be super fun, great premise, funny and scary, I loved it.
Would you call it a scary story to tell in the dark?
Ooh, yes. except an actually good movie. Yeah. So
Yeah, so I saw that movie too. Yeah, it just sounds like I don't need to see this film at all. I've seen the superior versions of it, right?
No, you see lesser versions.
Okay, I will ask a question. Is this still exclusive to Shudder?
I believe so. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. You and Uncle Chuck, I might be needing a password.
Yeah.
You can give it to me right now if you'd like.
All right, loyal listeners, get
Go
your
ahead.
pens out. You ready?
Yep. You've stuck with this long. Like, why not?
Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. I mean, Shudder's good. I mean, the thing about Shudder is that there's just so much content that it's hard to find like the good ones. Like I've watched a lot of bad Shudder horror films, but when you find a really good one, it's special, and this is definitely one of them. So.
Okay, I will take a look for it, and I will watch it if you give me your account info. And if Shudder, you're listening, I'm a vapid liar. I will not do that. So,
yep, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that's great stuff.
So then on to my number 5.
We have every reason to believe that this monster will show up again tonight.
Hi, John. I'm an alcoholic. I've been in the program now for 6 years.
You know.
Underwater. Kristen Stewart. She comes up again and again.
No. So you know that I'm a sucker for a good werewolf movie, and I'm always on the hunt for one. And we had a great one come out this year. It's called The Wolf of Snow Hollow.
This is not a film.
Yep. And
your last two just made up films. I've not heard of them. I've heard of neither of these films. Back-to-back horror films.
Yep. So
tell me about this. Why do you like it?
It's a great werewolf movie. It's hard to find good werewolf movies, man. It just is. There's just not a lot of them out there. And this is really good.
The Underworld series.
So as I rest my case, there's not a lot of them out there. So this one, I hadn't heard a lot about. The initial marketing was just kind of like, if they're like, this feels like the Coen brothers made a werewolf movie, which I guess, but I think that kind of cheapens it a little bit. But it's definitely like a horror comedy. The dialogue is great. There are quirky characters in a town, but it's the main character especially is great as this alcoholic cop who is just, he's unhinged. He's just so irritated the whole time. It's hilarious and also sad. And with our current police climate, but anyway, it's a super fun movie. It's good. It's scary. There's ineptitude, and it's a really good mystery. And the ending is fantastic. I think that it flew under the radar because it dropped in I don't know if it was September, maybe it was early October, but it just sort of came and went. But it's a really, really good film, and to get a really good horror film, especially a good werewolf film, it's going to be hard for me not to put it on my list. So The Wolf of Snow Hollow.
Wow. Well, you do have a type.
Yep.
So, all right. With that, I think that brings me to my number 6, correct?
Yep.
And I think I believe we're gonna have to go back to the advanced analytics. But I don't think we have matched up yet, and typically that has happened by this time.
Yep.
So and it's not looking great here, folks. But so my next film
Growing up is worse than a near-death experience. I can confidently tell you that because 2 years ago, My babysitter and her friends tried to kill me. The worst part is nobody believes me.
At number 6, I have a sequel.
Ooh.
And a very pleasant surprise. So this next tier in my list is the pleasant surprise tier. And so for number 6, I have a film called The Babysitter, Killer Queen. Did you see this?
No. No.
No?
No,
It sounds like you didn't see any good films this year. Okay. Did you see the first Babysitter?
No. Why would I have?
Yeah, I am appalled right now.
Why would you think that I have seen them?
Because they're great films.
I haven't even heard of them.
Oh, good Lord. Okay. All right. So I'm going to be talking to both the loyal listeners and our lovely and loquacious host, Luke Larson here. The Babysitter series now, or universe, is on Netflix. So you can watch it anytime you want.
Mm.
And the first one stars Samara Weaving, and she's like climbing the list for me. I think we've maybe talked about her a little bit. She put in one of my favorite performances of the year, and it's not going to get nominated or talked about with Bill and Ted Face the Music as Thea. She's incredible in that. She's really good in Ready or Not. And her and Radcliffe and Guns Akimbo are on point. So she was sort of the protagonist of the first film, and this second film just basically, I didn't know there was a second one. I didn't know there could be a second one, and just basically they're running it back. It's crazier. It's more fun. This is sort of what you get when all of the characters in the film are playing caricatures, but it's not like, it doesn't feel like yucky. It feels really fun, and it's really well done. It is very hammy, this film, but I watched it twice and I laughed out loud both times. I think it has some sort of star-making performances here. Judah Lewis is a young actor who I think has some real potential, along with some of the other ones in here. His co-lead in this film, Jenna Ortega, who is a very young actress playing the sort of other not evil person who has not made a pact with the devil to live forever. Is really good in this, and I hadn't seen her in anything else, but she is again one of those kind of like on those meteoric rises. You're gonna love this. I think she's the first build for the new Scream movie that's potentially coming out next year. So look out for that. Both films are incredible, top to bottom. And again, it's a sequel I didn't know that I wanted until I saw it. Just a joyous surprise. I couldn't have been happier beginning to end. So I really enjoyed this film, and I highly recommend that you check it out.
Okay. I will.
You will?
Yep.
Okay.
Just like all the movies you recommend to me, I will definitely watch it.
Okay. Well, you're lost. So, my number 5 is up next.
It's gonna be a beautiful wedding.
Here you are, standing on the precipice of something so much bigger than anyone here. But always remember, you are not alone.
I don't think that we met. I'm Sarah.
Niles.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice.
My number 5. I have another pleasant surprise that came straight to streaming. I have Palm Springs.
We synced up. We're going to talk about it in a little bit.
Okay, this your.
This is higher up on my list.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, yep. So number 5 is Palm Springs for me. So we will talk about that when we get to it, and that means it is back to you.
Okay, so then my number 4.
Y'all getting ready for the party here?
What did you say?
I just asked if y'all are getting ready.
Yeah, we just called an Uber. You coming?
I'm not sure yet.
No, I'm not sure yet.
Why is college so hard?
Oh, I love college so much!
I feel like I'm just like floating.
Ouch. You're in trouble, aren't you?
I'm trouble?
You okay?
You know what this is. My number 4
This is,
film, Shithouse.
Shithouse, we will talk about.
Okay. They're very good. All right, then on to my number 3.
Hey, Ann. Hi. See, we can like squeeze messages to each other.
Rescue me from this place.
Is that SOS?
No. Yes.
I'll say wow, it looks so different. They like me.
Yeah, we're gonna play the game now. Ringo Levio!
So my number 3 film of 2020, Ringo Levio, starring friend of the show, Josh Kootman. I interviewed the director, Kristen Peterson, on the show. We dive way deep into the film, so go one of my favorite interviews ever. Go check that out.
Tell me about the film, because obviously I didn't see this.
Right.
And
So,
has this been released yet, or is it still kind of in limbo?
still in limbo. Yeah, it was making its festival run. Another one that I feel for, like we talked about with Small Town Wisconsin being in the festival run and just kind of hoping that it breaks through. This one is like screams Sundance to me. There's like official selection. Maybe it's too much of a comedy for it, but I mean, it's so this film is about this couple, this lesbian couple, and the main character, she is very introverted, and she's going with her girlfriend to meet her girlfriend's brothers for the first time, and she's nervous about it. And she goes, and it's sort of like her brothers, one of which the oldest played by Josh Kootman.
I did no. This is your you must have your notes mixed up. This is Happy Season. I did see this. I did see my lesbian rom-com. Come on.
I hate you. I hate you so much every day.
Yeah, it's starring Kristen Stewart.
Why you got to do that to Josh Kootman, friend of the show? You're gonna step all over his movie. You're gonna do that to him.
I kid.
But I talk about it a lot in that episode. But it's a great film, and it hit home because they deal with a lot of codependency issues. Like the director Kristen said, she was like, I should really just play this at a Codependence Anonymous meeting. And it's just a lot of it is a lot of the dialogue is it's naturalistic. A lot of it was improvised, and you can really tell, but it has this great feel where nobody's really saying exactly what they feel, and it's infuriating to watch. It's been described as a horror film for introverts, which it definitely was for me, and was just an emotional roller coaster for somebody like me. So the top of my list is kind of hard. This and Shithouse are very close. It was really hard to put one in front of the other because they both had that similar effect on me where it just hit way too close to home. And was really hard to watch. So, I mean, be on the lookout for Ringo Levio because it's so good. And I'm excited for people to be able to see it.
Okay. Very good.
So then that brings us to your number 4.
Number 4.
I remember the day when it all started, seeing this really strange thing. A lot of people say an octopus is like an alien. But the strange thing is, as you get closer to them, you realize that we're very similar in a lot of ways.
What in the world?
My number 4 is a film that I hold near and dear to my heart. And this is another theme of mine that I've noticed throughout the years. But this is my nature-y documentary, beautiful film. This film is called My Octopus Teacher.
You told me about this film, and I couldn't believe you that it was real.
I tell you, this is what I deal with. I mean, I get the rap, and a lot of it is deservedly so, for being a diva and a drama queen and somewhat of a control freak. But if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that Luke does not give a fuck about my recommendations. So My Octopus Teacher. This is a documentary. It is out on Netflix, so you can watch it anytime you want. But it's simply about a film where a man who has sort of lost hope in society starts diving off the coast of Africa in the cold water, and he meets an octopus, and the octopus learns about him, and he learns from the octopus. And it's one of the most beautiful films of the year. This is a great there's a couple films coming up for me that are examples of what you may or may not call slow cinema, but slow cinema that's not boring. I had no idea octopuses could think. I'm pretty sure that the octopus in this film scored higher than on the ACT than I did,
Yeah.
which it's not saying a lot, but still that's pretty good for an invertebrate. But
And you're working on your PhD.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, probably the octopus would have been done like 4 years ago. So there is some just truly breathtaking things that I have never seen, and I cannot believe that it was caught on camera by a single man who doesn't believe in scuba diving. He does all of this by breath. He just goes down, no wetsuit, no anything. He loves the cold. The cold invigorates his body. It makes him feel. He craves the cold, and I love this film. This film is so good. I highly recommend it. So My Octopus Teacher, that was number 4 for me.
Okay.
And number 3. I lost my place. Okay, here we go.
We need something. We need some window. Get outside. Get some fresh air. What? Watch his head. Come on, get back. Everybody get back. Get outside. Joe, get outside. Come here. Break it. Don't worry about his fucking head. Hold on. Frank, we're going to break this window. You got to get up. You got to get up. Move. Wake up.
Okay. So at this point in my list, I have taken some creative liberties. And we could maybe argue coming up, whether you consider these films or not, but I certainly do. And I think that they're worth mentioning, and once again, this is just a series of films and projects that I hold near and dear to my heart. So for number 3, I have the 7th annual On Cinema Oscar special.
You piece of shit. Yeah, I should have seen this coming.
So, friends here, loyal listeners, I would say Luke and I are both, we're very much fans of Tim Heidecker, Eric Wareheim, pretty much anything that they do. The On Cinema series with Tim and Greg is it's one of the, it's like at this point just jumping into the series, it's like trying to understand the monolith. It's truly incredible. I've been in and out over the years, but I've always held it near and dear to my heart. And what they did this year with the 7th annual Oscar special, they delivered on their absolute best work. And I have never, I didn't think I could feel this coming from, because it's mostly comfort food for me. And, you know, the craziness that's coming and the debauchery, but the high wire act that Tim pulls off here, with everything that goes on. And granted, these Oscar specials can go a little bit long, but this was absolutely perfect. Coming in, it's at like 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I played sort of the tail end of the special there, but I essentially watching this live and watching, this is a very 2020 thing as well, but watching it with like a chat feature where there's just people just spamming in the chat. There was a 10-minute still sequence, nearly 10 minutes long, of just a camera sequence where it's just showing the characters and everyone is still. And I and everyone else watching live thought the series was over, and it was incredible.
Wow.
And I was laughing, I was sad, I was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And for them to be able to do this for as long as they've been doing it, the fact that the show just basically continues on Twitter between Greg and Tim is just a stroke of genius. And I think it's worth it. When I was going back and thinking about everything that I had seen this year, this just kept popping up in my head. It's like, God, that was just an incredible thing to see, especially quote unquote live. So
was that when Greg dressed up as the Joker?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so good. He dressing up as the Joker, he comes in, head out the window in the mobile VFA archive. It is so good. The turn that Tim's character takes this year, being more evangelical, is incredible. They just like keep finding new annoying vices for Tim to just kind of latch onto, and it is so good. And I highly recommend. I almost think it's hard to recommend to people. It's like if you haven't at least seen a little bit of it, but it's really, I mean, if we are looking at, you know, a couple more months of being shut in before things start up again, like, boy, I can't tell you how much I would recommend just diving into the On Cinema universe. So again, it's something that it's been there for me for a lot of years, and I think it's warrants recommending in a year in which, you know, we maybe have the opportunity to do so. So that's why it's there.
This is like maybe the only year where I'm not that upset that you picked this as one of your top 10.
Good. Yeah. You want to hear number 2?
Well, we'll have to wait on that.
Are you up now?
Because I'm up. So
Okay.
my
3-2
number.
and 1-1.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my number 2.
Mr. Stone, your hearing is deteriorating rapidly.
The hearing that you have lost is not coming back.
I can't hear you. Do you understand me? I can't. I'm deaf.
This was the most recent.
Flatline.
What?
This is Flatliners, right?
No, shut up. This is the most recent film I've seen this year, called Sound of Metal. It was an Amazon original. Did you see this?
Okay.
With-
No, it popped up in my Letterboxd recommendeds. It's been on my screen. There's the algorithm has been telling me to watch it, and I have yet to get around to it.
Riz Ahmed is always so good. He always elevates everything he's in. And this film is just, when I saw this, I was like, that's more like it. Oh, I just wish I could have seen more films like this in 2020. It's so good. And the premise is basically this: Riz Ahmed is a drummer in a punky kind of heavy metal band, and he loses hearing and goes deaf, and it really explores that. And he's an addict, or a recovering addict, and him just having to deal with his hearing loss is this is sort of like it made me think that this sort of paid off the promise that Creed made. Obviously Creed is a fantastic film, but there was that subplot where Tessa Thompson was a musician and she was losing her hearing, and we kind of loved that there was that dynamic between knowing that she wouldn't be able to do it forever, and also like Creed knowing he couldn't necessarily box forever or whatever. And just thinking of a musician going deaf is tragic in its own right, but just to have this film, like, it is an incredible film. I mean, it's so good. Riz Ahmed is just amazing. He's insatiable in this, and it's great because you feel the isolation that he feels so much, and he's all around, like, after he starts to lose his hearing, he feels isolated because, like, he can't hear anybody, and his world, he feels like, is over. And then he gets in with this community and tries to get help, and then he's like this guy who is with around this community of deaf people that he can't speak and sign yet. So they're all signing and he can't really talk to them, and he feels isolated there. And then, he tries to go back, and it's just like this, it's this journey of self-discovery again, and overcoming what he went through. And there's so many highs and lows in it, where there's a moment in the second act of this film where I think, like, is this going to be over? Is it just going to be like a happy ending? And I would have been okay with that. But then the roller coaster goes back down, and he tries something else, and it just comes back, and the ending is so good. I mean, it's just a beautiful film. I'm so glad I saw this one. It didn't slip through the cracks, and it's on Prime. If you guys have Prime, go and watch it. It's so good.
Okay. Yeah, it's on my list. This had to have been very recent, right? Like, we're talking like a couple weeks ago it was released. It's been on my...
I think that, yeah, I know, because I saw a trailer for it a while ago, but I think I read that it was late November, but I don't remember seeing it anywhere until like a couple weeks ago. So
yeah. Okay. No, I'm really excited for that. I too enjoy the Riz and So that is definitely something that I am looking forward to watching.
Was that my first good movie that I picked so far?
Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't give it. But since I haven't seen it, I can't criticize it either. So
Sure
yeah,
that.
that's for you. So
Yeah, that feels nice.
It's at least a film that I know is real. So,
That's true. That helps.
And you know, I'm again, I'm a man of the people. I believe you can see all the films on my list.
Sure.
You don't have to be a industry insider like our host here. So you know, he likes to talk about things that you can't see. So
maybe I'm just better. Maybe I'm just better than you guys.
So
I don't know. Hard to say.
To his their own. Great. So we're getting down to it here. So this is my number 2.
Nope.
Do you want to get clean?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
I get it. I
fucked up.
Well, you don't want to get clean? Yeah, of course it's fucked up.
I'm a piece of shit, huh?
Yeah, piece of shit. All right, but here's the silver lining. You're not a drug addict because you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit because you're a drug addict. You follow? Okay, all right. What I'm saying is, you didn't come out of the womb an evil person. You, Rue, came out of the womb a beautiful baby girl who, unbeknownst to her, had a couple of wires crossed. So when you try drugs for the first time, it sets something off your brain that's beyond your control. And it isn't a question of willpower. It's not about how strong you are. You've been fighting a losing game since the first day.
My number 2 is a film because I choose to call it a film.
Oh, good.
It is the special episode, singular episode of Euphoria that came out this year. It was titled Rue. This was following off the first season, and it is essentially a bottlenecked episode of 2 people talking in a diner about life. And it is so good. I don't know if we've mentioned it yet. This was, you know, we talked about John David Washington. We talked about Robert Pattinson a bit. The other sort of star in orbit right now is certainly Zendaya, and
undeniable.
And this by all accounts was supposed to be her year. She was starring with Timothée Chalamet in Dune. Again, we've been talking about it for now what seems like two years, waiting for that to come out. She won an Emmy this year for what she did on Euphoria, and for her and Coleman Domingo, who plays the other person talking in that scene, they put in a little over an hour here of just back and forth, and I wouldn't be mad if they won another Emmy for it. So it's really incredible. It for a show that is so dialed up, and I gave you a little taste of this. I know Luke has watched at least 1 or 2 episodes back in the day when we used to hang out. But it really proves that this show can be anything. Because again, just 2 drug addicts talking about their lives in a diner on Christmas is not, you know, something that would really maybe appeal to the core Euphoria audience. Not that there is a core Euphoria audience. It's certainly not for high schoolers, or maybe it is, I'm not sure. But it really proves that the show can be anything. And it's, again, I love talkie films. Another example of slow film that is not boring. It's insightful. And it really opened my eyes. I'm like, well, shit. Like, why do we lean so heavily on sponsors, like people who have gone through it as, you know, maybe someone's only outlet, right? When you are struggling, and it begs the question of like, wow, are we really doing this right? Spoiler alert, probably not, but it offers maybe some hope, but it kind of leaves that up in the air, and I really enjoyed it for that. So it would have made my list no matter the year. It was that good, and since it is, you know, a singular episode of a singular thing, there were no other episodes after it. I just figured, fuck it, why not? It's my list. There you go.
High school.
Yeah. How about them high schoolers, right? Yeah. Between that and The Leftovers, it's like, damn, high school seems so much more fun now.
Yeah. Well, how did we miss out on all that?
Right, we did barely, you know, just barely missed that off. So
we were almost there. All right. The time has come for our number ones here.
Yep.
So we'll go with my number one film of 2020.
It's gonna be a beautiful wedding.
Yep.
You don't need to play it again.
You brought it up before. We talked about it on an episode earlier this year. Palm Springs, Andy Samberg, the Hulu original. Just a fantastic film. And again, we talked about it in depth earlier this year. Go check that episode out. But it's such a good film, man. It's so much fun. It's funny, but it's also stark, and there's great performances, and I feel like they really go for it, and they explore the Groundhog Day premise. And it's just
what?
Yeah. And it's just
Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Spoilers. Dude, don't tell anybody. Don't tell them it's Groundhog Day. But it's, you know, what comes back to me when I think about this film is something you said, was with the ending. You were like, I just needed a happy ending in 2020. And I just feel like I really needed this film in 2020. Like, it was just so much fun, and but it also went for it, and it had a happy ending, and it really is introspective and deep, but also funny and realistic. And I loved it, man. I loved it.
It's Sandberg's best work. I think it is so tough sometimes to find things that especially people that come from comedy, and blending things that you can lead in, and B, sort of use those traits to your best ability. He does a phenomenal job with it. It really, really takes off because I just think like him and the lead, Kristen Milioti, just have incredible chemistry together, and it really doesn't work without those two really being able to vibe off each other and pull off a lot of the sort of tough set pieces that they have to do with one another. At no point was I like thinking like, I'd just rather be watching Groundhog's Day right now, which can often happen when you have like a remake or a reimagining or a sequel, where you're just like, well, you know, what are we even doing here? But I do think that it absolutely does enough, if not more than enough, to sort of shake the label and be really superior to the original in every single way. I love Groundhog's Day, but Palm Springs is just a better film, bar none.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. This was an absolute surprise for me. I came into it not knowing what it was about. I hadn't read anything. I just heard like, okay, here's this thing, and let's watch it. Because at that point, we were really, really starved. Like it was, I think we were maybe coming off the tails of like Five Bloods, and then this was either right before or right after. But boy, just seeing something and having it, just like you said, make you feel something. Needed it.
Yeah. So where was this on your list? This was your 4?
This was number 5 for me.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
Number 5, I loved it. And yeah, anything else to add with your number 1 film of the year?
This was the one that I think I watched it 3 or 4 times. I mean, I watched it more than any other film. It's extremely rewatchable, and it makes me want this premise more. Like I just want them to do more of these time loop movies. But I guess what I really appreciate about it is that how it was able to balance the lighthearted fun to be funny, but also go for it and be lonely and dark and sad and heartbreaking, you know. But how it was able to pull all that off is it was a tight rope to walk, and it could have just been goofy and funny and it would have been fine, but how they were able to spin all those plates is what makes it so special, in my opinion.
You think Nolan was pissed? I think he was pissed when he saw this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fucking had that. It was sitting there for me the whole time. Or actually, no, he was probably like, "Yeah, time, hold my beer."
Yeah, exactly.
you want to see a time loop?
I'll show you a time loop. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I really love Palm Springs. So that leads me to my number 1. So I played the trailer earlier, or I think Luke, maybe you did. But I have Shithouse as my number 1.
Boom.
So this is a film that we recently talked about, starring Cooper Raiff, directed, written by Cooper Raiff and Dylan Galula are the 2 leads in this, and this is essentially a film about a college student who's struggling to fit in, struggling to make friends his first year in college, and essentially what that looks like. And for me this year, this really saved it for me. I think maybe there's just maybe a little bit of recency bias with having, you know, seen it within the last month or so, but again, I think I say this every single year, but I was waiting for something, waiting to really just be like, there it is, that's the one. And this was instantly that for me. I laughed, I cried, I felt everything in between, and we talked about this at length, and this was my number 1 film, and I don't know that it was like really close. I had no issues, no problems debating this, so it always makes me feel really good when I have kind of a clear cut. And for me, that was Shithouse this year. So tell me about it. I know this was on your list as well.
Yep, this was my number 4, and it was kind of tough because my top 4 were really hard to kind of narrow out and to put where they were at. So it was kind of, they were sort of interchangeable for me. But this one, yeah, like I said with Ringo Livio, it was just agonizing to watch because it just hit so close to home on so many levels. And
Just imagine you didn't watch it. This is the
Yeah.
quite frankly the only recommendation that Luke took.
Okay. So loyal listeners, here's the thing. Old Legs, it's really difficult to tell. I've sort of become John Mugar to his recommendations because I just don't know what is a real movie. I don't know what is an anime film or an anime series. These are coming in at 3 a.m. They have names that I don't recognize. I'm like, is this part of an inside joke that I'm not a part of? So most of the time I'm just like, yep, sounds good. Okay, well, yep, well, I'll watch it. And then usually he forgets and we all move on with our lives.
That is true. Yeah. You're very good. You've taken the Trump administration tack, telling me you're on it. Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm on it tonight. Just knowing that I'll forget about it. But yeah, mostly I just need someone to kind of like shout into the void.
Yeah.
And so for that, I thank you because it is therapeutic for me. Even if you don't watch any of the outstanding films that I recommend to you, but it makes me feel better because I know that it would be much more difficult to make your list if you saw.
That's true. So. Yep.
So yeah, Shithouse. It's incredible. I really enjoyed it. I have a real soft spot for the talky slice of life film that blends comedy, humor, and that that visceral realness, right? Where you just you can physically feel Maggie picking up her phone and being like, "What the fuck?" I'm gonna block this guy on Instagram if he messages me one more time.
It's a weighted blanket.
Yep. But it is really good, and so that's my number one. That ends a little 2-year streak we had. We had been in there for 2. So, but again, this was one of the most wild and memorable years for probably not any of the right reasons, but we made what we can, and I'm still excited to kind of see what else kind of comes down the pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you have like some honorable mentions you wanted to spit out quick?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I watched over 100 films this year. I couldn't really decide, like, I didn't put it on my list because I didn't know if it was on from last year, but Portrait of a Lady on Fire, really good.
I think you did put that on last year.
Soul, I just watched, is very good. Not for kids. Possessor is a film that I saw. Possessor, Relic, Come to Daddy. You mentioned it, The Invisible Man, The Way Back. A film called Porno, which I watched, which I really liked.
That was good.
The Platform, The Lodge, Happiest Season, Underwater, Kristen Stewart killing it. A documentary called That Feel When No GF, which we may or may not have talked about.
We did on our South by Southwest episode.
So those were all films that I really, really enjoyed. A couple films that I just hadn't seen. I mean, Nomadland is a film by Chloe Zhao, which I've starting to hear some buzz about. So maybe that's the one that kind of breaks through. I still haven't seen Color Without Space, so sorry, all my Cage fans. And there's probably a bunch of others. How about you? Anything that kind of was close but not quite?
Yeah, King of Staten Island. I saw that was. Oh man, what's his name? His movie, the whatever. I'm blanking on his name right now, but from SNL. Whatever. The King of Staten Island. I saw it when it came out, and it was good. It was good. It was close to making it, but I just think
that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson, yeah. So it was basically like it was basically like an imagining if Pete Davidson never got into comedy and just stayed in Staten Island and just lived with his mom and was kind of a bum. Like that's sort of what the movie's about. It's like this alternate history, which is interesting.
3 hours long.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was. I liked it, but it really got really good when Bill Burr came into the picture, and before that, it was kind of meandering for a while.
Yeah, that's
so
your guy.
that's my guy. So if it had more Bill Burr, maybe would have made it. Da 5 Bloods we talked about was good. The Last Shift, which starred Richard Jenkins, I actually saw in the theater. I was the only one in the theater at one point this year and watched it, and it's like
Richard Jenkins just hanging out.
Yeah, that was it. It was us two pretty much. But it was one of these indie films that I had seen a trailer for, and I was like, I'll go see it. And Richard Jenkins is a character that he just worked at this local fast food restaurant his whole life and never left. And then he's all of a sudden going to be working his last shift there after 20 years. And I don't think he even graduated high school because then he was planning on going down to whatever. And it's just kind of sad. And it was interesting, and it was definitely like a slice of life, but I just don't think it sort of left. It was just sort of a whatever. I think it was interesting, but it didn't quite do it for me. First Cow I saw, which we joked about as like A24's, but it was so boring.
I was going to bring this up. So my next little kind of thing was my foray into the kind of like bottom 5 or just films I didn't like.
Yeah.
And First Cow is the tippity top of the list.
So boring.
You want to talk about, this is the polar opposite. This is slow film that is boring as fuck. It is a fucking film about 2 guys that make biscuits.
Yeah.
And it's like pretty cold out and stuff. Like, I don't know.
It's bad.
It did not do it for me in any way. And anyone that has this at the top of your list, like, just please.
Yeah.
Think for yourself. Like, there's no way you're rewatching this in 5 years.
Exactly.
Like that at the door.
A24 is what I really missed, because this is about the time of the year we'd get 1 or 2 A24 movies that would really blow us away. And the fact that this was like the only big A24 movie that I saw this year is really maybe the worst part of 2020.
Like we thought it looked boring.
Oh yeah, we sure did.
Like, if this wasn't A24, like
yeah, exactly.
But they really got us with that one. So
it's a good prank.
Yeah.
I also had The Devil All the Time, which was a Netflix movie starring Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson. This was one that is more of a Luke movie than an Old Legs movie. I mean, it goes dark. It's sort of a Nocturnal Animals feel.
Oh, great.
But not quite that dark, but also like it's got sort of that generational timeline, kind of like Place Beyond the Pines, except it's not as good as Place Beyond the Pines.
Okay.
So it's just kind of, it's fine. I was like, this is pretty good, but it wasn't. I was like, I would rather just watch The Place Beyond the Pines or a different dark movie. So didn't make the cut, but not bad.
Yeah. Speaking of Netflixy thing, kind of film bro kind of movies, I'm thinking of Ending Things was really disappointing for me.
That's a good call. Yeah, that was.
I didn't like it. It took a while for me to come to that, but I didn't think it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I probably tried really hard to like it for probably too long.
Really wanted to like it, but it's not being John Malkovich. It's not Anomalisa, so
it's not Schenectady. Yeah.
So that that's really all the kind of gripes I had. I don't want to like bring down the pod by starting to shit on a bunch.
Yeah.
There it is. Another
we did it.
Another year in the books. And the pod's doing better than ever. I tell you what.
2021. We're
we will we'll be back next week to talk about Doolittle.
Yep. Well, yeah, that's right. We still got to get to that.
Got it in the queue.
Will Dune finally be our number one for 2021?
Boy, I really, really don't want to jinx it. I'll be happy to see Dune when it comes out, in whatever form or fashion. You're not ready for my level of excitement with Dune.
No,
I don't know that it. I spent a lot of time reading Frank Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
And discussing with Uncle Chuck. So I'm just gonna like foray this with just be ready, like prepare yourself. Okay.
I feel like you're at a point where there's no way you can enjoy this film if you're too in the weeds.
Either that or the film will be a metaphor for putting your hand in the box and finding out if you are the Kwisatz Haderach. If you are worthy to call Shai Hulud, the old man of the desert, your friend, we will find out. It's a test. It's a test, Luke. It's a test to find out, are you a man or are you an animal? And I'll leave it at that.
Well, on that note, you can find me on Twitter at LukeLarson89. Find this podcast at L Squared Podcast on Twitter, on Instagram, or on Facebook at L2 Podcast. Check us out everywhere you get your podcasts. Follow us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. That way you can get all of our amazing content. Check out the films that we love from 2020, an interesting year. The nice part is that most of these are already on streaming, so you can see most of these right now. So
most of my films, not many of Luke's, but
not many of mine, but that's how we're different, I guess, in more ways than one, I would say. So go check these out. Let us know what your favorite films of 2020 were, and we're happy to leave 2020 in the past. And until next time,
great job.